Tired of everyone telling you to find your passion, but no one telling you how? Welcome to the Korean Connection, and I'm your host, Korean, an attorney with a passion for empowering others to use their many talents and skills towards a path of self-discovery and alignment. Join me as I share my personal stories, professional insights, and practical tips, and how you can connect the dots between what you're great at and turning your passions into purpose. Let's connect. Push it to the left, make it go no more. Make it like no, I'm coming back home. I'm trying to roll all of my own. I'ma be the greatest, write my name in the stone. Write my name in the stone. Yeah, I'm coming back home. Yeah, I'm coming back home. Write my name in the stone. Cause I'm coming back home. Yeah, I'm coming back home. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our second show of the Korean Connection. I'm so excited. That last one was a fun one for me, and I hope this one is equally as fun. In thinking about what today's episode is going to be, I thought it was fitting to talk about connection and keeping the connection, and even thinking about just the name for this podcast, in what I was going to call this podcast. It only made sense to me to have the word connection in the title of this podcast. Because when I think about who I am as a person, one of the big things I love about me as a person is that I remain connected to people that I find to be important to me in my life. And I try to be intentional about that. And I guess the premise or the basis of that is that on a human level, I just think that human connection is so important. There's so much you can learn from just meeting someone new, from knowing their background, knowing their histories, and just finding those little commonalities, right, of what you share. You may find that, this person shares similar cultural experiences as you, even though it may be, from a country across the world, right? You may learn that some of the foods that you share are similar, or they just call it something else. I just love discovering new things about people. And when I think about who I am as a person, I think about my connection with people. And that's something that I pride myself on. I like to think that when I meet someone, I leave a positive impression on them. And that's important for me. And I carry that throughout my life, and I carry that throughout all my experiences, because connection, it's so powerful. It's so powerful when you can find a common bond between you and the next person. I can tell you so many instances where connection has introduced me to new ideas, to new career paths, to new hobbies, to more friendships. Just finding the common link between you and another person. You won't know how powerful that is until you've found the connection. And you can't find the connection without speaking to people. And I understand that not a lot of people are comfortable that way, right? There are people called introverts. And, as an introvert, I guess you would find yourself a little bit awkward in social settings, or it takes a lot of energy for you to put yourself out there, to be vulnerable, to initiate a conversation. But I think, my answer to that is, like in my first episode, you have to find the drive, right? Nothing is going to happen to you when no one knows who you are. No one knows what you're good at. No one knows, your way of thinking. No one knows your past. No one knows where you're heading. You may be this wonderful bundle of joy that's waiting to be explored, that have so much to offer that no one will ever know about you. And I understand culturally, this is something that I struggled with this a little bit, especially like in law school, because, it's part of like trying to sell yourself, but not necessarily selling yourself, right? We don't walk around with labels on us. So no one knows who you are, right? So we walk around just making assumptions as to who people are based on how they look, based on how they talk, based on how they appear to us, and based on how we are portraying our own insecurities and our biases on them, right? And sort of sizing people up. And I guarantee you that in every circumstance, when you explore that, when you take the initiative to get to know that person, there's always something that you can learn. And I'm big on, not devaluing people or ranking people in a hierarchy of how you see yourself and how you see someone else, because, I could be considered smart in one area and completely stupid in another, right? The homeless guy on the street that's sleeping under the bridge is smart in some respect where I'm stupid. And so for me to walk through life thinking because he lives under the bridge, there's nothing that this individual can offer me or nothing that I can learn from this individual, it would be a very limiting perspective. And that's basically my outlook. There's always an opportunity to learn something from someone. And so when I bring this through, in my daily way of living and being, you find that it's not only much more fulfilling, but it's more freeing, right? And the world becomes probably a little less scary when you know the guy who you see every day that's standing on the corner, that he lives with his grandmother and he's taking care of his grandmother, and he is the sole breadwinner for his family, and he comes out every day to be on the block, to do what he has to. You know what I mean? There's always a story behind everyone, and behind everyone and behind the facade of what you just see with your naked eye, there's depth to everyone. And so, take the opportunity to find out what is that common linkage that you have between yourself and the next person that's sitting next to you, that's standing on the, on the subway, that's on the platform, that, who's standing behind you in the coffee line. This past weekend, I was able to go to pitch your podcast event through the Black Effect Network. And just going, I purposely just talking about how just one brief example of how I carry this through in my daily experiences. I decided to go alone, right? I wanted to go to this experience in Atlanta by myself. I could have asked a friend to come. I could have asked someone to, just to have that sense of support and reinforcement, right? That makes you feel comfortable, when you're at the event and everyone is wandering off in peers and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to walk around looking stupid, having nobody to talk to. Nobody's gonna, notice me, and I'm just gonna be off and like a little awkward person in the corner. That could have been something that I considered. But even in pushing past that fear, right? Because it occurs to everyone. And the fact that I can say to you meant that at some point it occurred to me. But even in occurring to me, in that moment, I made the intentional step to dismiss that thought and said, well, you know what? If I do feel that way, all the more reasons why I'm not going to invite someone to come, because they're going to force me to be in an environment where I have to talk to people. I'm going to have to meet new friends. And for me and my personality, that doesn't necessarily come so hard. So I totally understand that it wasn't something that I had to work up myself up to, but it's something that I still considered. However outgoing that I am, is still a consideration. Nobody wants to look stupid to other people, right? But in deciding to go and knowing what my ultimate objective was, which was to meet new podcasters and connect with new podcasters on my show, I wanted to be able to connect. And in order to connect, I have to be able to be vulnerable, right? And I think oftentimes that's really the hard part for a lot of people, is showing that sense of vulnerability. I don't want this person to think I don't have any friends. I don't want this person to think that I need friends. I don't want this person to think that, I'm less than whatever those thoughts are that occur to you, that you don't want this to leave on that impression on this person. Is it really worth not even engaging in a conversation with that person? You not knowing how this person's experiences might be similar to your experiences, or you're already in an environment where you share similar passions, right? What are the odds that this person is doing a podcast also? What are the odds that they've been doing it longer than I have? What are the odds that they have information that they can impart in me that might help me along my path? What are the odds that I would never know if I went with my bestie and say, come on, bestie, let's go to Atlanta for the weekend and turn up and go to Magic City, If I had done that, I wouldn't have connected with so many people that I connected with there. I wouldn't have gotten, people are so excited to be my first followers on IG. Literally just created my Instagram page for the Korean Connection just a few days before going to the event. So when I, even giving people my handle, I'm like, I have no one. They're like, oh my God, I'll be your first follower. They were so excited and supportive. And that was the environment that I went into. And it was amazing to see. It was amazing to experience. And if you're able to just give yourself an opportunity to experience what I feel like, I think you'll find that it's not as scary as you think it may be. And it's not as, people are not as mean as you think they might be. There are so many people, especially if there's things that you want to do as well, that you're passionate about and you like it. If you're finding people who like the same things, chances are you're probably going to be on similar paths, probably going to have similar journeys and experiences and stories to tell. And so, that was just one example of what I did just this past weekend of being intentional to connect. And so going back to, this whole idea of how I go about my life and just being intentional about connecting with people. It's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to go to connect. But it's also another thing to stay connected, okay? And it's very important that you meet people and you follow up with people and you stay connected. Now, staying connected could mean several different things to different people, right? So, for instance, using the same example of this weekend, how am I going to stay connected? Well, the people that I met there, I'm going to make sure that I'm following them back, right? Being polite and following them back on their platform, offering them support, right? Being encouraging and motivational to them to kind of keep them going, because I know there's going to be a part in this experience of this new journey that I'm embarking on with you guys that I'm going to be discouraged. I'm sure after, I dropped my 10th episode and I have 2 likes that I'm going to say, well, I don't know if this is worth it, perhaps, or I may just get overwhelmed by life, or some life experience might just pop its way in that, that forces me to kind of take pause on things and now have to make a decision. Well, is this something that I can realistically consider while I'm going through this? There's going to be a time, and I guarantee you, where I'm going to lean on them for support. And they may not know that yet. We haven't necessarily developed that relationship yet where they know I can call their phone. I'm like, hey, talk me through this. I'm sad. Of course, we're not there yet, but at that time, by maintaining this communication, this contact, even through social media, I'm not even talking about calling on the phone, because nowadays you don't necessarily need to do that unless it's someone that you want to be that intentional with in speaking to on the phone. But with respect to the folks that I met last weekend, I'm going to continue to remain in contact, like I said, by remaining present on social media, by, giving them inspirational messages whenever something moves me to do that. I'm not going to be fake about it. It's something that's going to come natural to me. If I see something that I like it. If they dropped an episode and it was interesting, I tell them that it was interesting. Like, why would I keep that to myself, right? And I think that's also a part of the vulnerability that it requires to stay connected as well. It's all about putting yourself out there and being vulnerable to people. When you are vulnerable to people, it invites people to also be vulnerable with you. And so, just remaining constant and, communicative on those platforms, I'm sure that they're going to feel that sense of encouragement. And I'm sure that, in my times of needs, they're going to offer me whatever little nugget that I need in order to keep that drive and motivation going to keep coming to see you guys every week, right? And so that's just one example of just one event this past weekend that is now a lifelong responsibility that I'm taking on in connecting with these people. And where do you think that can lead me, right? I mean, the possibilities are endless. You're talking about collaborations. You're talking about just support. You're talking about just community. So many. I mean, even if nothing else comes from those experiences, I met someone nice. I met people who were passionate about what they believed in, like me. I met people who were down for the culture, and in that moment gave me a sense of rejuvenation. they can't take it back. It's what I experienced already, right? It wasn't a loss, it was already a gain. So even if nothing else were to come from just making those connections, then I've already won, right? And I think that if you kind of think about life that way and thinking about the way in which you connect with people in that way, it doesn't become a chore. Don't make it a chore. Just be nice. I don't know why it's so hard for people to just be nice. It should come easy to be nice unless you're innately not a nice person. And I don't believe that. I think for the most part, people are good. I think people want to be good. I think life makes people make other choices out of survival and protection mode and putting up walls and being defensive or not showing, the part of them that they are insecure about. I mean, there's so many different reasons, but remaining connected and staying true to who you are as a person. Now, I mean, you can't beat that, right? Now, I want to preface that by just kind of talking about some of the downsides of being vulnerable and remaining connected to people. Now, I just mentioned that people go through their own struggles. And I mentioned that people, they're experiencing their own trauma, right? And as we all know, people tend to reflect what's going on the inside. If there's turmoil on the inside, there's usually turmoil that's being stirred on the outside by that person. And so, people walk through life showing their traumas. And I think, in this day and age, just recognizing that, first of all, recognizing that, acknowledging that life is lifing for everyone out here. No one is exempt, no matter how rich they are, no matter how privileged they are, no matter how, whatever you may perceive to be, good in someone's life, or even not good, or just not even know somebody just walking on the street. A small interaction shouldn't, you shouldn't let people's insecurities or, traumas deter you from being who you are as a person. But of course, no one want to walk around being the punching bag of other people's trauma. So naturally, you want to put up some guard to, sort of, protect your own self from just the damage that other hurt people who hurt people can do. But I think that, remaining positive, remaining true to who you are, and I think, killing people with kindness is a thing. I think the quickest way to disarm somebody who's being a complete jerk, a complete a-hole, is to just kill them with kindness. And this thought actually came up to me just last night. I'm in my kitchen. I'm sharing with my fiance that, I had such a terrible day. Yesterday, I had to go and meet up with a colleague in Brooklyn, and I left later than I wanted to leave, and the traffic was horrible, and I got by the time I got on the highway, I realized that my gas light was on, and I didn't know where to get off to find gas off the FDR, in mid Manhattan, and all these things, and I'm like frustrated, and I'm getting to where I'm trying to get to, and I find parking, and it was shady parking that I could potentially get a ticket from, which I ended up getting a $150 ticket. But all these things were happening to me yesterday on my way to meet with my person that I was meeting with. And, I finally get through all the things I needed to get through to get there. And I'm taking out my ID now to go through security. And the security guard, I did what I had to do. I showed my ID. I showed my identification. I, filled out the little book, and on the sheet they asked to put like your address of where you work from. And for me, I normally just put legal because, we travel to different locations, and, sometimes we're housed in different locations. So I just put legal, and he had an issue with that. And so I was like, okay, well, on the second line, I decided to put an address because he insisted on me putting an address on the second line. And I put the address on the second line, and I said, well, now look, you have to ride on the second line. So now you're taking up a whole nother line for someone who's coming behind you. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, but what do you want me to do? Like, I already put legal. You said that was insufficient. There's no other space. I put the address on the second line. And now you're calling your supervisor because I'm being difficult. And I mean, I had to woosah through that moment because you think he was getting kind, Kareen? He was not getting kind, Kareen, at all. And I think one of the things you probably get to know about me as well is that I'm kind until I'm nice until I'm not nice, right? I try to go through life just happy and go lucky, but don't piss me off, And so, because I really do try to be positive. So when people come with me with negativity, I'm just like, okay, bro, like, today ain't the day, number one, and you have no idea what I went. Just you don't want the smoke, but in going through that experience yesterday, and I'm sort of at the end of my day recounting the details of my day to my fiance, and I was like, in getting into it, I didn't getting into it too much with the guy, but there was some definite lip service, and I was definitely giving, this is ridiculous and beneath me. I was definitely giving that a little bit because I've gone through so much just to get here. I just want to get to my appointment that I'm already late for, and I'm dealing with security, when I have ID to enter a building that's made for employees like me, just because I wrote something on a second line is ridiculous. So, in thinking about that experience, I told my partner, I was like, you know what, Kareen, the next time somebody really gets under my skin, instead of allowing them to disrupt my spirit, I'm just going to kill them with kindness. And that's going to just get them so off guard that they're going to feel so bad that they were a jerk to me in the first place. And then in that moment, I'm going to use it as a teaching moment to be like, well, see, had you just been nice, had you just been, pleasant, you could have gotten to know that this is me as a person. And every time I come back to this building, you'll get that individual, the happy-go-lucky Korean. Like, at no point you needed to experience any sort of discomfort when it comes to me in my presence. But, he gotten a chance to experience just a little bit of that. But I don't even want to give that. I don't want to give that energy. I don't want to give anybody that power to have that control over my emotions, right? And that's something that I'm really trying to be intentional about and working with. So trust me, I know I'm a Taurus. I know people test you. I know. But in that moment, I decided that the next intentional step I'm going to take is that when I find myself in a position similar to that, where someone is frustrating me that much, I am going to kill them with kindness. And I'm imploring you to do that as well. So you don't have to stoop. You don't. So even when you encounter someone who's just being mean, you don't have to stoop. You can choose to be intentional in that moment and say, no, I'm not giving that to you. I'm not giving you my kind. I'm not giving what you're expecting, right? Because that's what they're expecting, right? Someone who's unsettled within themselves, that can get so easily annoyed and frustrated by something so minute. They're just looking for a little catalyst to give them the angst they need to get whatever that has nothing to do with you, by the way, out. And I'm not giving it to anyone, and I'm not allowing anybody to take that from me. And so, even thinking about, for those people who's like, oh, well, people are just, but you don't have to respond in that way. And that's definitely something that I'm working on currently, because life has thrown some curveballs that has made me, my patience thin. I can't even express to you how thin my patience is, and no matter, and as happy as I am as a person, and how positive I am as an individual, and how I try to vibrate high every day, people get under my skin, and I think it gets on my skin a little bit more because it's like, for why? Just for why? Like, I'm coming to you happy. I'm coming to you go lucky. And I'm coming to you, in good spirits. And you want to deflect whatever it is. Why? So, for those people who are hesitant about being the social butterfly and want to protect yourself from people, just think about those ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be the way in which I go about it, but it's one example of how you can find yourself in a position where you don't have to compromise you, right? And still putting yourself out there to connect, at least attempt to connect with people. Now, in my first episode obviously took you through the path of all the people who I connected with, all the people I connected with throughout my middle school, high school, college, law school years. And I just want to kind of point something out to you about those experiences in tying back my first episode into this one, right? Because it's all leading you towards connecting your passion to purpose. One, you got to find a drive, right? But connecting with people and remaining connected to people is a huge part of connecting or of giving you that sense of fulfillment that you seek. I promise you. That is the thing that's missing. It's that gratification you get from doing something that you love to do and other people acknowledging that you're great at it, seeing that it's something that you love doing, and you getting a sense of, however that sense of fulfillment come for you in that moment, it comes to you. And that's okay, right? You don't have to necessarily do it my way and killing them with kindness, but find another way in which you can remain centered and focus on your goals, right? We know that human nature, just human nature in general, we need human connection. We need human touch. We need to feel connected. We need to have a sense of community. We need to feel like we are involved. It's a basic need that we all have as human beings. So to intentionally close yourself off from people, I don't know how beneficial that would be in you learning to connect your passions to purpose. And, going through, again, my first episode of all those people who I connected with. Now think about the people who I connected with in, say, junior high school. Now, those people are still my lifelong friends. Kadisha, Tracy, Jody Ann, all of those people that I connected with in junior high school are still my friends. Do we see each other every day? No, but I speak to them. They're on my social media. They have my phone number. Whenever I think of them, I call them. Imagine that. Imagine how many times you think of someone and they occur to you, you're like, oh man, I remember that girl from, I wonder how she's doing. But you just find out. That could be the universe telling you it's time to reuse that relationship. See, one of the things people don't understand, the universe is always going to give you what you need, right? And sometimes that person may have occurred to you for a very specific reason. Now, the relationship and the connection you had with that person back in junior high, that I had with that person back in junior high school, obviously we don't have the same connection now. We're grown, we're adults, life happened, kids happen, divorces happen, whatever. Life happened, you moved out of different states, you live across, a different part of the world. So, of course, the expectation that they're going to still remember you and have this same sense of connection is going to be different. But you've made enough of a connection that they won't be offended by a call to say, you occurred to me today. You crossed my mind today, and I just wanted to know how you're doing. And I promise you, in just having that, I can't even tell you how many times someone crossed my mind, and I'm like, I'm going to call this person and see how they're doing, only to find out that they are going through probably the same thing I'm going through. They probably need a friend. They probably have something brewing in their life that correlates to something that I'm doing currently in mine, right? Why did I, why did that, how are you also doing a podcast? You know what I mean? Just for example, how are you also, how did, perfect example. So talking about speaking, keeping connections, let's go to high school. The people who I connected with in high school, still connect with them today, down to my high school boyfriend, right? Still connect with them today. They're on my social media. They reach out if they need help. If there's something that they need that I can help with, they call, they text, they email, they DM. It's open communication because why? We've already connected. We've already had that connection. And the connection that we had then was more than sufficient for me to continue to connect with you and to offer you whatever assistance I can, right? So in high school, I'm still one of my best friends to this day is one of my friends from high school, Shireen. And we lost touch after high school. We went to different universities, and and went to law school, and randomly, as life would have it, at some Jamaican basement party in the Bronx. Don't judge me. And it wasn't a basement party. It was in a club in the Bronx, and that played dance hall music mostly, all Caribbean people, right? And I'm like in there doing my thing and winding up myself and all this stuff, and all I hear is Kareen, Kareen. It's my girl Shireen from high school. Now we've lost touch over those years, and in us connecting on the dance floor, she ran up and gave me the biggest hug on the dance floor. She's in law school, on her path to being a lawyer. I don't think we've ever even had that conversation when we were in high school about what we ultimately want to be. I had no clue. No clue she had an interest in law. No clue that she would have went off to college. Maybe she didn't even know, right? I don't know when that developed for her that she wanted to continue on a path of law. And we connected then. We reconnected after so many years had passed, only to find out that we were on the same journey. Right? So sometimes, you connect with people and then you lose touch as life would have it because life is going to life. But then the universe is going to find a way for you to reconnect if that person has something that you may need. Or you may have something that that person may need. And in that moment, I guess we just needed a friend. We needed a friend to get through whatever the bowls of hell was that we were going through in law school and trying to pass these classes and learning how to do outlines and the whole thing. And just that was a whole cultural experience too, in and of itself, the whole law school experience of just feeling alone, and you have to figure this thing out by yourself, and everybody else around you don't look like you, and and their father is a judge, and they already set to go to the law practice that their dad works for, and they have a family practice, and they're Jewish and they run the world, and it's all of that, and you have to maneuver that. So just being able to find community, that was the reason for a connection again. And she's still my lifelong friend and still one of my best friends to this day. Weddings, dogs, kids, the whole nine. She's embedded as a part of my life. And that was just from our little connection in high school, right? I wouldn't have even called her my best friend in high school. We didn't call each other best friends in high school. So we didn't even know that's where our path was going to lead us for us to be best friends today. But had I not make that connection, had I not keep that connection or make that connection significant enough to want to keep and maintain that connection and make that impression. So that's also, important too. It's a whole other segment. And when you do make that connection, you want to make an impression, a lasting one. And you don't want to think about what that lasting impression is that you leave with people, right? That interaction on the street. I know I didn't leave a good lasting impression on that guy, that security guy yesterday. I did not. But I'll have another opportunity if I go to the building to fix it. He'll see how amazing I am, and I'm sure he'll love me, and he'll be lifelong friends thereafter. But that was not a good connection. And from that not having that good connection, I'm now making that intentional step to kill them with kindness, right? And so I just want to kind of show you all that, remaining connected to remain just connecting with people. Sometimes you don't have to work so hard to maintain the connection. Sometimes the initial connection is enough um, to revisit a connection later on in life, and you never know how that connection can propel you further towards your passion. And that's what this all is about, right? Finding your passion and connecting that with purpose. And you never know who you meet. And with that said, why not kill them with kindness, right? So that anybody that you meet, they're gonna be like, oh, she was so kind. She was so nice. I wouldn't mind hanging out with her again. Oh, it was a great connection we had back then. Why, when that job opportunity come up 5 years from now, they're gonna be, I met her and she was so nice. Maybe now that she has the skills and education, plus I had that connection with her and she's nice, maybe she'll get that job, at least give me an interview, right? Um, you just never know, right? So, I was able to maintain those connections from junior high school, from high school. In college, I made amazing connection. My roommate, Tanya, is my girl. I made so many good connections in college. And I maintain those connections now, even, I don't know what's gonna, with the college connections, I can't, there, it hasn't yet developed itself to see where those people that I met in college is gonna be able to propel me further. I can't think of anyone right now from my college experience that I can say I'm still in communication with, except for my roommate. Oh, my roommate and my friend Karine. Those are my two go-to from college. I think those were my two friends that I stuck with the most. And just even and just talking about the connection that I made with those two amazing ladies in college. They were my tribe in college. Karine is also an attorney. Tanya wanted to go to law school, but she chose one in education instead. And even though we haven't really necessarily connected so much, they were a very integral part of my college experience. They made my college experience, amazing. Tanya's parents are my parents. Her Bayesian parents are my parents. They love me. And I like that because they fed me when I was in college. They were my second mom that checked on me and make sure I was okay. They were a second home I was able to go to in Brooklyn. If I was ever in Brooklyn, I can stop by and go visit Miss Yard, the food is amazing. I knew grandma that lived downstairs. They were my second family. But also, what that connection was able to provide me in college, just a sense of culture too. Like, Korean is Guyanese and Tanya's Bayesian, I'm Jamaican, and I'm just able to find my Caribbean family in college in order to connect myself when I felt, away from home. And they were instrumental and a part of that development for me. We did pre-law associations together. We joined, a pre-law fraternity, Phi Alpha Delta. I did the judicial board when I was in college. We just really held each other down, and because we were similar on our paths and our journey, it kept us focused. Let's talk about that too. When you find your community, they keep you focused and on your goals, right? And that's one way in staying true to your passion, connecting your passion to purpose. You need people who are going to keep you honest. People are going to keep you true to your path. And that's one of the things too. And you get to see when you keep connecting with people and then when you stay connected with people, it's such an amazing thing when you can look back at just the connections that you had with those people and piece that in terms of the developmental phase you were in your life and how impactful that was. So in looking back at, one of the things that I can say from looking back and staying connected with all the people that appeared at the various stages in my life, at the time, it was nothing more than just staying connected or being connected to them and making an impression, right, on them. But now looking back and even being intentional about staying connected to those people from middle school, high school, college, law school, career-wise, it also allows you the ability to, one, see your growth, right? You can see, oh, wow, well, based on my friendships that I have with these people, these are the people, this is where I'm able to see, oh, I took the step from here, took a leap to here, to here, to here, in terms of my development based on just the friends that you have. And then two, you can look back and say, wow, based on the friends that I have, it's so revealing as to who you are as a person, right? The people who you connected to back then, and look, we can all be a growing process, right? I go, it's the people, if the people you connected with back in elementary school and high school had negative influences on you, that's one thing, right? But being able to still be able to see the growth, like, oh wow, man, that person used to be my friend and now this person is my friend. Oh man, I could see I'm not the same. You know what I mean? And that's powerful to be able to see, okay, because as you grow, your circle will also grow, right? That saying that says, show me your company and I tell you who you are. Show me your friends and I tell you who you are. Yes. And I think looking back at my friendships over the course of, my journey, I think you can get a good sense of who I am as a person by looking at my friends. And I like that. I pride myself in that because oftentimes when you're living your life, you don't get to go back and see all of the, you don't get to see the connections as much, right? Until you've had enough varied connections to say, oh, okay, this is the connection that I have. And even my friendships was as an integral part of, who I am and connecting my passion to purpose. And so just the word connection, I wanted that so very much to be my first episode with you guys, my second topic with you guys, because one, I think it wraps up who I am as a person, just being a people's person, being able to connect with my audience, being able to connect with my tribe, being able to stay connected to my culture. Oh my God, that's a whole nother thing as to who I am. Staying connected, it doesn't even have to be about staying connected to people. It could also be staying connected to my culture. And that was something that was also very important to me is, being uprooted from Jamaica and coming here, I didn't necessarily have a choice, but I knew enough and had enough pride of my Jamaican heritage that I knew, as much as I wanted to be able to speak without a thick Jamaican accent, make no mistake that at no point I wanted to lose my accent because when we reach my yard, me go talk to the pitting them just like this. You understand? So, and me not talk no other way to my kids but that way. And the people who know and love me the most, I'm intentional about my Jamaican culture and staying, true to that. So, and you can see that throughout all my friends that I had throughout the years. They're all, for the most part, from the Caribbean. I mean, I was living in the Bronx, so there's a big Jamaican population, a big Caribbean population in the Bronx. So it was no surprise to me that most of my friends were going to end up being Caribbean, of some Caribbean or African descent. But maintaining that was important to me. I have some of my sisters who don't speak Patois. One of those sisters, or two of those sisters that I smuggled, they don't speak Patois like I do. They don't speak it on a daily basis. I make it a point to speak it on a daily basis because it's not something that I want to lose. My culture has been such a big part of my identity that, remaining connected to culture through the music, through dancehall music, through R&B, through whatever. Reggae has been so influential in all of those spaces that it's undeniable. And, Jamaicans as a whole, we're just so disrespectfully proud about our tiny little island that no, losing that Jamaican essence about me was not an option. So that's one of the things I was very intentional about being connected to. And my friends showcase that. Even from, when in junior high school, the first thing I did to make friends was to find the other Jamaicans. Those friends I'm telling you about, those were the other Jamaicans. I found them. Jody Ann, Tracy, all of them. I found them because that's who I felt most comfortable speaking to. They also, I didn't have to put on so much of a farce in trying to do the, come on, man, what you talking about? You know what I mean? I didn't have to do that with them. I had glimpses and opportunities to just be myself. And that's what they were able to afford me, a sense of community, a sense of family, a sense of, familiarity. They gave that to me at a moment that was super stressful in my life, with just being dropped in a new country, in a new place, and having to acclimate. So they made my acclimating process very smooth. So thank you to you guys, and I appreciate that relationship that we had back then. It really was instrumental in my development and ultimately my growth, right? And I think it's also important for you to like let people know that when they do inspire you, when they motivate you, when you think of them, call them. Let them know, because oftentimes you'll hear over and over again, like, "Oh my God, I never got a chance. Oh my God, this person passed away, and I never got a chance to tell them." Or life happens, guys. People are, I mean, I mean, this is a whole nother subject, but they are killing us with our foods. They're killing us with the products we put in our hair. They're killing us with the perfumes that we spray on our skin. Now, tell me why you would need to put something that's scientifically proven to kill you and give you diseases and can't, you know what I mean? It's insane. But to be losing people every day is a normal thing. And we have such a short time to be on this planet that you wanna leave a mark. You wanna leave your impression on this planet. The last thing you want to do is just to not be remembered, right? To not have made a statement, to not have been some level of influence in somebody's life, to not be able to help where you can, to not meet your best friend, to not meet, your husband or your future wife or the person who you're going to procreate with because you were scared to make a connection, to not get the job, right? To not connect your passion to purpose. Those are not things that you want to leave this planet with on the table. You want to put it all out there for you to say, well, I did it. I ain't like it. I want to do it again. Or, or I met someone who was so instrumental in my life and so and helped me and was so crucial to help me get over this adversity that I was facing, that I would never forget them. That could be you. That could be you. That could be your mark. If all is said and done, and the only thing that people can say about Kareen is that, man, I met her and she was nice to me. That's an amazing impression to leave on someone. Profound, actually, because there's so many other negative impressions that you can leave, or even worse, not leave any impression at all. Right? So, think about that. Think about that. And I want to impress upon you as you're continuing on with this journey with me. These are all steps that I'm taking daily, right? This is not a thing that, it doesn't come innately if you don't continue to do it. They say habits develop, you formulate a new habit every 2 weeks, right? Of doing something consistently. This is something that you have to intentionally throw yourself in. So, like the first episode where I talk about motivating yourself and throwing yourself into those uncomfortable spaces. Yes, connecting with people perhaps might be your insecurity. It might be your uncomfortable space, but I guarantee you it's going to propel you so much faster to connecting your passion to your purpose. It's going to be so much more fulfilling to know that you have met someone who is bringing you closer to your path. It's going to be so rewarding when you can use your talents to help someone, to be like a story in somebody's, in a developmental stage of somebody's life where it made an actual impact, even though that person is long gone from your thoughts years later, they're still thinking about you when they think about those moments. How did I overcome that? Oh man, that was John that really told me that one thing and it really resonated with me. Sometimes it's just words. And so you never know how little things can have profound impact on people. So why keep that to yourself? Why keep something so small to yourself to say, man, I really like that show? Man, I'm going to offer her support, not just by looking, but subscribing, right? To her channel on my birthday and watch my first episode. All of those things, all are very helpful in getting you to where you ultimately want to be. And if you just change your mindset in just looking at life that way, just connecting with people, we all need to connect. We all need people. No one is an island. You don't get to excellence, by doing a solo act. This whole life experience is about collabs. And you don't do collabs without connecting with people, without telling people who you are, without being vulnerable, right? And then also maintaining those connections so you can also continue to reveal more about yourself as a person, reveal more about your friendships, reveal more about how intentional you are, and then being able to, go back and connect those dots by one, looking at people, looking at the path you chose, looking at the decisions you made, looking at the connections you made. It's all pushing you closer towards finding your passion. So I just want to empower you guys to just think about remaining intentional, about staying connected. Well, first connecting, right? Because we're gonna do that. We're gonna overcome those little jitters of being perceived as lonely and lame and no friends, right? And we're gonna be vulnerable and we're gonna put ourselves in those spaces to connect with people. And then once you connect with people, you're gonna one, be intentional in that connection, in finding a connection, a link, a common thread between you and that person. And then in finding that common thread, you're going to find that it's going to be even easier to want to stay connected with that person because now you found that similarity that connects both of you. It could be you're both from that same small town, or you love this, you went to that restaurant all the time, or man, that pizzeria on Jerome Avenue where they sell the pizza for $1.50, that was my spot. That was your spot too. I mean, just the simple little connections that you can make that make people want to continue to be in your life or justifies you remaining in someone's life. It's so small. And then you don't have to think so hard about maintaining the connection so much unless they occur to you. Then you reach out and you say, hey, I thought about you today. How are you? I know you were going through a rough time. Are you okay? What are you doing now? It's been so many years. What's your career path? What are you on? What's your next venture? Oh my God, the possibilities are endless in terms of what you can learn. And there's always an opportunity for you to get something out of your connection with someone. Nowadays, when I meet people, one, I want to, you got to be intentional about your connections, right? So nowadays, when I meet people, I want to know what you do. What do you do for fun? I want to know, I want to be able to size you up to an extent, right? To know like, okay, well, what do you like? What do you do for a living? What do you like? Do you have family? What's that like? What are your hobbies? What are your interests? What do you do for fun? Because I'm looking for that thing, right? And once I find that thing that we connect on, then we can continue on with the relationship, right? Then the next time we talk, we'll find another thing, or the connection might be us creating a thing together. Oh, you want to go have a cup of coffee? Maybe we can go grab brunch. And that could be your new connection, even if we have nothing in common. And then you never know how these connections can propel you towards your own path. And if you don't maintain these connections and be intentional about maintaining connections, you're losing out on an opportunity that you may not know you're losing out on. How many times have that happened to you in your life, right? How many times has someone who you didn't know or it was so unassuming to you when you connected with them that they actually had something substantial to offer? something that was really beneficial and crucial to you in a place and a time where you needed it, right? And think about if you hadn't explored that, how different your life could have been, how different that experience could have been, how much harder it could have been to overcome it, how much longer it would have taken you to get that job opportunity, or to get that call back, or to just to have someone that you can just have as a community to just reach out on if you're ever in the dumps and just need someone to say, man, it'll be okay. It's just a day. Tomorrow's a new day. You can so many connections you can make. And just remember, guys, like people are in your life for a season, for a reason. And that season the season may not have happened yet, right? The connection might be there because you've made a connection, but the season of where they're really going to be impactful in your life just hasn't come yet. Why? Because they probably haven't reached that phase in their life, in their developmental stage where they can offer that to you. But you won't know if you lose that connection, right? And, sending that little, hey, I thought about you. How are you doing? What are you up to? You never know what they have stirring in the pot that can still help you today. So just be intentional about keeping that connection and just stay true to who you are. I think it's very important that especially in the world that we live in, where toxicity is the norm and people being mean is cool, and it's not the cool thing to be a nice girl. In a world where it's better to be mean and guarded to protect self, it's so you don't want to lose who you are. You don't want to lose the goodness in you. Don't give that to somebody else because they're going through something, right? Don't let somebody else deflect their trauma on you and allow you to be this hardened individual. Be soft. We all want to be in our soft girl era. How do you get there? By being hard, right? I think you just have to stay true to yourself and be intentional about being connected. And so with that wraps up our second show, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that some of the things I said resonated with you. And I hope that when you join me next time, you'll find another way in connecting your passions to purpose. See you then, and let's connect. Thank you guys for connecting with me today. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe to my channel, The Korean Connection. To connect with me, you can email me at thekoreanconnection@gmail.com. And don't forget that sometimes your passion whispers before it roars. And if you're listening closely, the next episode might be where it gets louder. Let's connect. Push it to the